If the recent spike in airfares made you shelve your summer vacation plans, you might want to start looking at hotels and your itinerary once again. The prices of air tickets have come down on most routes. Citing data from aviation regulator DGCA, a government official told a financial daily that compared to June 5th, ticket prices on June 13th for a flight scheduled 1 week later had seen a drop ranging from over 10% to almost 60%. Airfares had skyrocketed in May as demand surged after GoFirst suspended operations on the 3rd of that month. But on June 13th, the Civil Aviation Ministry said that average spot airfares on 9 routes flown by GoFirst had declined by up to 33% compared to the week ending June 11th. On the Delhi-Leh, Delhi-Mumbai and Delhi-Ahmedabad routes, the drop in fares was in the range of 26 to 28%. Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia said that the ministry had intervened by sending strict advisories to airlines asking them to self-regulate fares. He recently tweeted that the DGCA was closely monitoring the matter. At its highest, the one-way fare for a Delhi to Leh flight in May stood above 40,000 rupees, reportedly more than thrice the prices a year ago. And while prices have cooled down from the highs of May, at least as on June 13th, fares on several routes were still reportedly higher than what they were a year ago. Meanwhile, the government recently ruled out any cap on airfares, which are not regulated by it under the current regulations. The DGCA too does not have the mandate of economic regulation in civil aviation. Against this backdrop, a government official told a financial daily that predatory pricing was not the reason for the rise in fares. Instead, a mismatch between supply and demand and the summer travel season were to blame. But the reason behind the spike in fares could be something else. Writing for another financial daily, former Air India Executive Director Jitendra Bhargava recently said that airlines were not operating the number of flights they had themselves offered to fly daily for getting the DGCA's approval for the summer schedule. Airlines get flight schedules approved by the DGCA twice a year, wherein details are given of how many flights they will operate and on which sectors. Bhargava argued that this was a significant contributing factor in the big jump recently seen in spot fares. According to him, in April, when GoFirst was still operating, India's 10 domestic airlines collectively operated 2,927 flights per day, against the approved 3,273, leading to an average daily deficit of 346 flights. In essence, Bhargava argued that airlines operating fewer flights than committed was the major reason behind high airfares. So, we spoke to Bhargava to understand his argument.
The passengers have been chasing seats of late, so therefore they end up paying more. I'm not going to say that airlines are not justified. The fact is they are, the costs are high, but should you be overcharging? My contention, no. Why is it that there is a scarcity created? And the tragedy is that while most experts and the bureaucrats in the ministry understand that when the capacity goes down, the fares go up. Take the example when GoFirst suspended flights, Minister also echoed the same thing, that the prices are abnormal because Go Air has shut operations. Now, applying the same logic, when the airlines operate about 300 flights less than what they had asked for from DGCA for the summer schedule, does that same logic not apply? That because there are fewer flights, the fares are high.
We also spoke to aviation expert Rohit Singh Tomar to find out what he thought was the reason behind the rise in airfares.
When you file a schedule, you get slots based on the schedule, and the airline needs to operate at least 80% of those slots in a specific season to retain the slot the next year or in the next season. So know that is not the only contributing factor. Whenever you look at fares, you should look at fares which are return fares. So, for example, if you have a flight Bombay-Delhi, which is costing you, let's say under your view, it's costing 20,000, which is extremely expensive compared to Bombay-Delhi. But you also need to then look at Delhi-Mumbai. And Delhi-Mumbai would typically be selling at, let's say, a 6,000. So what the airlines are trying to do, at least what I understand from, I could see the trend, is very similar to international airlines, where there is a unidirectional traffic, in order to incentivize and close the deal on both sides of traffic. So you want passenger on one side, you also want the other flight to be full. So what you do is you try and incentivize a return fare.
According to the Airports Council International, among the top 10 Asia Pacific and West Asia aviation markets, India witnessed the highest increase in airfares in nominal terms across both domestic and international flights. This increase took place between the fourth quarter of 2019 and that of 2022. Coming back to the most recent surge in fares, Jitendra Bhargava has also argued that while the DGCA cannot ask airlines to review fares, it can ensure that the capacity deployed by them matches the schedules approved by it. Against this backdrop, do the experts think that a regulatory lapse has occurred?
Now, if you know that there has been a demand and the market is in a growth mode, and if you still allow airlines to decide how many flights they would like to operate, and not as per the schedule approved, in my opinion, DGCA is failing in its duty. Otherwise, what is the rationale of airlines submitting their flight schedule to DGCA in advance and seeking approval? Government has all the power to ensure that the adequate capacity is deployed by the airlines, and aircraft are not allowed to sit on ground when the fares are rising.
No, I don't think there has been any regulatory lapse. It's not at all right to say that government intervention is required. And let's be honest, what does government do? Every airline, even today, needs to file fare buckets with the government. What the government does is the government does have the right, and it does monitor the buckets that have been put by the airlines. Okay. So there is an indicative number that is available of what is the highest fare that an airline has put in its bucket. And you can see that on any airline website. Every airline website is mandatorily required in India under a separate sheet, which is called the fare sheet. It will show you the buckets of the fares, right? At any given point of time, those fares have to be aligned to, those buckets have to be aligned to.
The experts Business Standard spoke to disagree on the primary reason behind the recent rise in spot fares. And it cannot be conclusively said that either cartelisation, which involves a group of businesses colluding to keep prices high, or regulatory failure are to blame. However, what is known for sure is that if fares rise steeply again, it could become an emotive issue for flyers and a political one for the government.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
He's moving from employee to employer. Business Standard.